Elon Musk is not the problem. Today he called USAID hopeless and beyond repair.
Into USAID, it became apparent that what we have here is not an apple with a worm in it, but we have actually just a bowl of worms. And so at the point at which you don't merely, like if you've got an apple and it's got a worm in it, maybe you can take the worm out. But if you've got actually just a ball of worms, it's hopeless.
Lovely viewer, welcome back to Comfort for Life.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing, and yet Elon Musk is seizing the power that belongs to the American people.
He is not the problem.
Everyone is saying that what's currently happening right now between Donald Trump and Elon Musk is a coup, but is it really a coup if the president of the United States is just willfully letting a private civilian go into government buildings, access government information, basically have access to every single thing that has to do with government? As someone who's been in human resources for 10 years, this is looking a lot more like a merger and acquisition. The United States has already been operating like a company, let's be real. So Elon Musk buying out said company does not surprise anyone, because what happens during a merger is whenever a company buys out another company, they have full access to go into looking at their P&L. They get access to every single system, every single information regarding their employees. And every department goes through severe scrutinization. Like, what is the purpose of this entity? How do they make money? How much revenue are we even getting? Are they even necessary? Can we scale back? Purpose of a merger is to cut costs from the organization that you're buying, because essentially you paid so much money to purchase another organization, and in order for you to get that money back, you have to scale back. You have to cut costs. And what is the biggest cost? People. You're looking at your books. What exactly are we spending money on? Because we need to get back to our investors, our stakeholders, because they want to know how they're going to get their money back. To me, it's looking like Elon Musk just bought out the United States government because it was already operating like an organization. It was already operating like a company.
I am anxiously waiting for the downfall of Elon Musk, and it will be one in which I will celebrate with so much glee. Because not only is this man unhinged, but he is an unelected individual who has now been given keys to the castle that is the United States. And with his army of barely 20-year-olds, he is going about the federal government, deleting departments, getting access to our very sensitive data, uploading that data onto external servers. We were so busy worried about China getting access to our data, manipulating that data, that we now have given someone who is foreign born, who is barely a United States citizen, who overstayed his student visa, who was in violation of his student visa because he worked during that visa, and now is eliminating departments within the US government. He has not even been given clearance to do the vast majority of things he has been doing. Not only is it unprecedented, it is illegal. And yet it feels like our government is in a standstill on trying to figure out what to do. Like, at what point does the alarm bells start to ring so loudly that Democrats have to get off their asses and actually start governing? And I'm tired of hearing people say, well, there are processes, there are laws in place. Laws only matter if they are enforced. We currently have a sitting president who is a known pedophile, convicted of rape. The same man who tried to overthrow the government. So what is the purpose of laws if those who break the law are not held accountable? Or those who are held accountable are the most vulnerable populations within our society? We don't just have a two-tier criminal justice system. We have a broken criminal justice system that now has enabled for a man who has committed multiple crimes in broad daylight to be the president, and now have all his cronies worming their way throughout the federal government, destroying it in their wake. I'm ready for Elon Musk to be marched out of the White House in handcuffs. That's a sight that I would like to see.
He is not the problem. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy established USAID through executive order. In 1998, Congress passed the Foreign Affairs Reform and Reconstruction Act that established them as an independent federal agency within the law. As of last week, they had a workforce of 10,000 employees with an annual budget of $50 billion. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not, because they operate in over 100 countries. Here lies the problem with USAID. As of last week, about 56 government officials, senior officials, were placed on administrative leave because they were trying to keep information from Elon Musk and his Doge employees. As of today, their website is down. going back for the purpose for which USAID was established in 1961. And that was for global development and humanitarian aid. America is broke, people. Elon Musk is carrying on executive orders from Trump's first term. The first executive order was for buying American and hiring American. He was already pulling out of United Nations because he wanted to dial into the American people's interests, America first. You hear about it a lot today, but it existed his first term. The second is another executive order focused on government transparency for federal funding and aid, which is why DOGE was created, to focus on pulling in the purse strings, but also oversight of resources. And now you have government officials who don't want to give him access. Unfortunately, there is a total workforce as of today who did not have access to their government building and were called to work remotely. But I'm not shocked by this, because these same government officials tried it his first term. Unfortunately for them, they allowed Trump to sit for 4 years. And now he has his varsity team. No one was paying attention during inauguration when all the cabinet members were sitting on the second row. Who was on the first? Big tech. So all these government officials and agencies that think they're going to undermine this administration, it's absolutely not going to happen. Before those executive orders were signed, if I was a betting person, big tech swept everything that they needed within the law. Somebody asked me to address the deferred resignation, and I will not. What I will say is this. You know, my most prized possession is my honor, courage, and commitment card. First generation U.S. citizen here, so this is a huge deal. My favorite part about honor, courage, and commitment is courage, do the right thing in the right way for the right reasons. I remember when I served in the military, I didn't even vote because it didn't matter who the commander-in-chief was. My mission didn't change, and it was a great time to be alive. No matter political party, people were joining the military. Everyone had an American flag up, and it was a great time to be an American. Best years. To the federal workforce. Federal workforce, they are public servants entrusted to serve and protect and support communities with integrity and accountability. So here's the thing. These programs, these pronouns, they're divisive in nature. They started a lot of arguments, created a lot of fear. People held a lot of grudges. Deliberately, they used it to undermine authority and law. They lied about a lot of things. They made up their own rules in a I win, you lose type of culture. And then it was the righteous anger. If you didn't agree with these programs, and I, for one, can tell you, if you didn't have pronouns, people would question you. So it's better to be silent and say nothing. The government is not trying to erase anyone. These people existed long before these programs, and they're going to continue to exist and be loved by those that care for them. Don't try to push identity politics. It's not going to work. The problem is, this is the very thing that has been going on, I would say, since 2008, 2009. And finally, we have an administration and we have the backing of a strong leadership to say it is not about one group of individuals, but all individuals in the United States. I think it's time for you to get on board with that, because we've been silent, or should I say we've been silenced over the years, where a lot of people could not have a voice. And I'm thankful that as an American, I have freedom of speech. But for many years, that was trying to be taken away from these programs as well. Couldn't have freedom of speech either. Or at least they didn't want you to think you had it. So these programs are just that, programs. It doesn't take away from the person. And I think that's what people need to remember when there's a desire to focus on merit, not identity politics. We're trying to be a social justice warrior. Anyway, take it for what it's worth.
Allow me to read few commentaries as I also give my 2 cents on this. To US, Africa is a blessing in disguise, and in some ways cripples innovation. You deserve a follow, so that was someone who followed it because they agreed with what you said. Yeah, another comment, it is easy for them to launder money overseas through these programs, since once they leave the country, it's very hard to track. So finally, someone has spoken sense into this issue, and also the issue of corruption being not only in the government, but also in the Congress. So allow me to give my 2 cents on the issue of Africa, humanitarian aid, money being sent overseas. Let me explain this since I'm in Africa. So in most cases, let me say generally, money that comes in Africa as a form of humanitarian aid come to solve problem caused by the same money that comes in form that comes to bring division. Let me explain this. I don't want to give you an African history right now. There's a reason why I posted the video that I've just posted. You have to understand Africa's problem for you to come to understand what we call corruption right now in Africa. So everything that you call corruption in Africa can be traced back to colonialism. And it's going to take time for Africans to realize that they are not inferior to white people. They are not inferior to them, for them to bow to their supremacist. If you've been following the news, and it's trending right now, the situation that is happening in the DRC right now, and it is the result of this humanitarian aid. They come, they divide us, cause war. Once we are divided, we fight each other. They come and take our resources, and they go develop countries. That's why you have millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires, I don't know what we will even say, richest men in the world, and all these kind of things that we hear. While even people who are working in the US, somebody also mentioned of millionaires, billionaires not being taxed, properly in the US, something of the sort. That's why we see that the world is operating under a capitalistic kind of government. Most people, when they see us Africans concerned by the politics of the United States, they say we are invading their privacy. We are. Do we have governance in Africa? Or are we invaded by what the West, by the West generally? What I call leadership in Africa, I'll just call it invasion by the West. So that's why I don't mind if immigrants are sent back home, they're sent in Africa. It has always been my prayer. I've always wanted that Africans, after they're done with their studies, if they find that education in the West is better, let them go and come back to their countries. But if they go and just decide to give them free labor, instead of coming and putting that effort in the continent. And this, my message to Africans watching this, Africa is big. If the part of your country has war and you have money, you can decide to relocate to a different country in Africa. You don't have to go to the US to go and give free labor. And right now, where immigrants are being sent in jail after they have fed people in. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into this, but yeah, I have not spoken anything about billionaires, Elon Musk, and whatever. I don't want to know who is the problem, but this humanitarian aid, I was so happy to see that everything was shut down. And I hope that this will be an eye-opening to not only the US, but also to Africa, because Africa is the one that is suffering much. You guys are suffering anger, but as we are losing lives. Our brothers and sisters are being killed every day in war because of this capitalistic society that we are living in. Yeah, let me stop it here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Thank you for spending your precious time here. And yeah, thank you so much. God be
Congo
fine.
is exploited in order for the world to advance. All the technology that we have, in order for us to advocate for everything else that we advocate for on the internet. We're in the 21st century. Technology is vital to our lives. And it's all because of Congo. Yet nobody cares. Everyone's silent. These streets are empty. There's no noise being made. On the internet, if you look at the hashtags for free Congo, if you look at the hashtags for free Goma, the numbers are abysmal. Abysmal. Why is that? Why don't people care? And it's not just technology. The resources that are taken from Congo in order to advance this world, pacemakers, life-saving technology, life-saving equipment, clean energy is advancing because of Congo. This world is moving forward and it has for centuries.